ever wondered, of all the colors on earth, why were two colors chosen? Black color and white color. Follow me on this one. You take a white color, you associate it with Jesus Christ. You associate it with the angels. You associate it with purity and everything wonderful and everything desirable. And then you take a race that's not even white and you say you are white. Yes. And then you take another color. You associate it with the devil. You associate it with everything undesirable. I've never seen a bank robber wearing a white mask. All the villains on movies are black. Everything undesirable is black. And then you take another race that are not even black and say, you guys, you are black.
Yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. For those who are new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, we're going to be reacting to a video by Chihombori Kwao. Who is she? For those who don't know, she is an activist and she's also an educator.
Right, and in this video, she talks about the impacts of both slavery and colonization and what it has done to the African people and to the black community in general.
Right, so let's watch this video without talking too much and then we come back and talk about it. If you have anything to say, kindly leave it in the comment section. Also, for those who are new here, kindly consider subscribing before you leave. Let's watch, then we come back and talk about it.
I took office 2.5 years ago as a dumb, ignorant family physician coming from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I had no idea what I was going to be doing in Washington. As a matter of fact, I actually felt kind of funny and silly, thinking me, a medical doctor, can be a diplomat. But be it as it may, singularly, the one thing, I came here, by the way, with no plans of staying. I was coming here top 6 months. After 6 months, look at my husband, honey, I tried, it didn't work out. Look at the chairman of the African Union who had appointed me. Thank you, Madam Zuma, it was great, but I could not do it. But 5th month into this position, one issue that kept coming to me and became very apparent was the disrespect for the African. I knew it existed, I just didn't understand the depth and the profoundness of it. And not only that, as I began to understand it even deeper, I began to also understand its economic implications when it comes to how we are perceived on the world stage, how this simple fact of simply disrespecting the African had serious implications and is at the root cause of why Africa is not able to move forward. And as I went and tried to understand and dig further to say, what is it about us as black people around the globe? Why is it that we are so disrespected no matter where you go? And I often say, was there a memo sent out to say wherever you go, if you are not a black person, you see a black person, you're automatically superior to them and you have a right to disrespect them? This memo did not miss anybody. It went to non-black people. But here's the real shocker. It also went to us black people to say, accept that you are inferior. You automatically take an inferior position. And I'm going to have to tell you something that has become a realization that and this is where I am stuck as I try to understand, how did this message just go through and percolated so through? Now we are on automatic pilot. It's almost as if we've undergone a genetic mutation. We don't even have to be told. We pass it on to our children. As we black mothers are trying to raise our children in our own homes, as much as we try to tell them that you're black and you're beautiful, guess what? The minute they step outside the door, the messages are completely different. A barrage of subliminal messages telling our children that that which you represent is horrible. How do we fight against that? How do I tell my granddaughter that you're black and beautiful, but the world tells her otherwise? The voices echoing her blackness as a symbol of everything undesirable are much, much louder than even we black mothers. We come together, we can never drown those subliminal messages. They were all by design. Let me take you to the beginning. Certainly for Africa, your continent. Because as we gather here today, as we try to strategize, as we try to create those linkages between those Africans away from the continent, and the Africans on the continent. We must understand, how did we get here? And for Africa, it starts with that monumental decision when they, the colonizers, came together in Berlin in 1884. And let me say, prior to 1884, they were coming to Africa in a haphazard way. They had started with slavery. And then when they felt like they needed the slaves to stay on the continent, they say, oh, we no longer believe in slave trade. Let's stop it. No. It was really just another way of saying the labor is needed on the continent. Let's keep the monkeys on the continent so we can continue to exploit them. So 1884, they met in Berlin to organize themselves so they can effectively loot from the monkeys. They did not meet in Berlin to see to it that Africa would prosper. No. Let me repeat. The colonizers met in order to see to it that your Africa, our Africa, and her children, not only on the continent, are forever defeated and dominated. That was 135 years ago. The manner in which they did it, they took out the map of Africa while the Africans were sleeping, minding their own business. Started to chop up your continent into the tiny little countries that we see today. The bigger and more powerful a kingdom was, the more countries that came out of it. Not only more countries, but these countries were given to different colonizers who spoke different languages. Let me bring it home for a second. Pretend you're driving from Zambia, you're speaking English. Pretty soon you are in Angola, you're speaking Portuguese. Then DRC, French. Equatorial Guinea, Spanish. Southern Cameroon, French. Northern Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, English. Northern Cameroon, French. You are now in Nigeria, English. Hello. These were the same people. Prior to 1884, we were powerful, amazing kingdoms with well-established educational and religious systems. If the truth be told, we had the civilization. We were the civilized. They were the devils, the uncivilized ones. They set out to take everything that symbolized civilization in Africa. To this day, they're still refusing to give up those relics. If those relics were not that good, why are you keeping them? We were way ahead of them in our civilization. They set out to destroy us. And Berlin Conference put the nail on that coffin. So they gave Djibouti the same sovereignty as the United States. They gave Burundi the same sovereignty as China. They gave Togo. You see, the EU realizes individual little countries, they can't survive on the world stage. So they come together as the European Union. Now picture this now. So they cut up this Africa into the tiny little countries, small economies that could never survive on their own, but gave them the same sovereignty as the big boys. So that way, when the little bitty countries go to the world stage for the purposes of development and discussing trade, they're wannabe boxers who are being thrown into the heavyweight boxing ring every day. How do you put China in the same boxing ring with Eswatini? Eswatini has 1.2 million people. China has 1.4 billion people. And you put them on the same stage and say, go at it, negotiate. Are you with me? Yes. This is insanity of the highest order. How have we allowed this carnage to go on? When Eswatini is thrown in the same boxing ring with China and Eswatini collapses before Eswatini even gets on the stage, the world says, well, Eswatini, what's wrong with you? Why can't you take care of your people? Where China came in and said, Eswatini, give me all your gold or else. And if Eswatini does not agree, they just go on next door to Lesotho and give Lesotho an extra $1. And if Lesotho doesn't take it, they just jump on to Togo, Central African Republic. It was all by design. 1884. They did something else in addition to chopping us up. They also set out to make the African believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything Western, particularly French and British, was more desirable. We call that the legacy of colonization. Prior to that, they had started long working on the slaves. Make them think everything about them, forget anything about Africa. Where you come from is a horrible place, diseased and dying people, constantly at war with themselves, uncivilized. Cut out any communications with them. You need to just know what we tell you. And we call that the legacy of slavery. So that's where you look at where we are today. 135 years later, a system that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated, that Africa is forever exploited, remains in place today.
So welcome back, guys. Let us know what you think about this video in the comment section. There's one thing that Dr. Chiombori Kwao says that has stuck with me, and she's talking about how Africans, we mind our business too much, and I agree with her.
And
we
this
mind
is why things happen to us, because the opposite race, them, they do not mind their own business. They like invading people, and more so when they do this, they call it spirit of adventure. Yes,
or helping.
Yes, or they come in the name of helping this society. And as she says, before colonization, Africa had its own system, something that is different to the, palm-colored system. They call it uncivilized.
And when colonization happened, who ended up being called barbarians? Who ended up being called uncivilized? So guys, there's another thing also. She mentioned that why is it that only people from the black race, right? They get disrespected to such a level, and it's just by default. Even the people who call themselves palm-colored people, let's talk even about those ones who are not considered as palm-colored people. The Asians,
the Arabs,
everybody who has a different color that is not black, they tend to look down on black people. We are looked as the scum of the earth. We are looked at the stupid
pyramid.
Exactly, people who cannot think. That is how Arabs treat Africans. Like, they don't have the mind,
the capability to think or build anything. And I agree with Dr. Chiombori when she said the only way Africa will come from underneath this pressure is if Africa raises themselves economically.
But you guys, I'm asking myself, Africans, I feel like a lot of them are very what name can I give them? Just sleeping. They don't, like, you're not living in a perfect world. You need to wake up and realize that. And not everybody who comes to your home is that welcoming and wants the best for you. You find that Africans welcome a lot of foreigners, which is not bad, all right? But how are you treating yourself? That dignity, where is it? How are you treating yourself and that person next to you who is of the same color? If you're still also discriminating against ourselves, the other day we did an episode about it's sad how black people treat each other, and this was an account of two ladies, I think, who are giving an account about how one went to St. Kitts and Nevis, that is in the Caribbean, and the other one came to Africa, not one country, not two countries, but I think 3 or 4, and she experienced the exact same thing. Palm-colored people being allowed to go in without checking or a lot of problems.
And they're the ones who can easily carry explosive into this country, and they wouldn't be checked because they are palm-colored.
Exactly. So this spirit of Africans worshipping a different color, and I feel like this is even what's the self-love? I feel like this is also the reason why when you look, guys, I feel like Nollywood is the perfect example, because I feel like a lot of you can relate, because I do believe that majority of our audience are very mature audience. I know the level of which you are at. You guys are familiar with the Nollywood industry, right?
The Nigerian movie industry.
Yeah, Nollywood industry.
Some people may only know Hollywood, so
okay, there's what Hollywood is to America is what Nollywood is to the West, Nigeria, West Africa, and let's say Africa in general.
Yeah.
So Nigeria, then they have Nollywood, all right, and their movies are very, very popular. When we were growing up, we used to see a lot of characters who like used to look like us, dark, you know. A lot of them, it didn't matter if you were thick-bodied or if you were slender, it didn't matter, because they represented the true
the versatile nature of Africans. And people.
Exactly. But right now, guys, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm talking from experience and what I know. We consume Nollywood movies.
Yeah, and a lot of characters in the movies that are being released right now, we realize that a lot of characters are very, very light-skinned.
Like
really
bodies
light.
like Cardi B, BBL is very common in Nigeria right now. So like the true representation of an African woman right now is being diluted by the Western what the West what the West considers beautiful.
I know the fact that the world is moving forward. Every culture eventually has to evolve. You know, back in the days, Nigerians would drink palm wine as their wine, but nowadays you see Nigerians with fancy drinks like whiskey, different brands of whiskeys on the rocks, and you're like, okay, but where is the Africanness?
Why do you not promote your own? Because
we preserve
your own. We got to a point where Nollywood was so good in representing African culture that we started seeing the West steal ideas from African culture through hairstyles, and these are palm-colored people. They're even on runways. You see a material that's coming straight from Africa.
This is Nigeria.
Yeah.
This is Nigeria influence.
Yeah, but then they call it like their own traditional culture,
their own names. That
anyway, that aside, in simple terms, what is Dr. Chiombori trying to say? The moment in which Africans and other black people, the self-hating ones who feel like they need to be adjacent to the power and treat their own like, you know, they don't matter.
Yeah, and therefore conforming to the beliefs of the palm-colored people.
You know how they said when colonization happened, Africans were left with the Bible and the palm-colored people left with the land? Right now, when it happens, Africans will be left with the good accents. Africans are gonna be left. You know, the funny thing is that while Africans think the American accent is beautiful,
or the European accent is, to be specific, UK,
exactly. You know, they also admire what is in Africa,
and a lot of Muzungus, the white people here in Africa, especially East Africa,
coming to learn our
they're coming to learn our languages, our Kiswahili. You know, even some good number of Asian countries, they're learning Kiswahili.
Exactly.
So a decade from now, something like that, we'll have exchanged languages and culture, and then it will be erased that it was ever from Africa.
Exactly.
It will be known that Muzungus speak Kiswahili and black people, and you know, like this, you speak English.
Yeah, when Chiombori talked about they came exchanged their language, that being French, Portuguese, English, what else, Spanish. Literally, you guys, I can second this. There was a time in Kenya where
growing up, knowing a foreign language
was a flex.
Like, be it English, not English, because obviously
French,
you were taught English,
Spanish, German. You know,
like knowing any of those, they were considered exotic and
exactly, very marketable. If you did a course in French and let's say you want to become a teacher, you would. I'm telling you, that was a big flex. These teachers didn't normally used to act like the normal ones who taught normal languages
here in Kenya.
But the ones who taught French, German, what not, they even traveled. I remember there was a family friend who was teaching Spanish. Then there was another one who was teaching French. These people traveled just because they knew these languages. They go to what is
those conventions for those languages.
Yeah, and here in Africa, you're left thinking, why are we not
promoting other languages? You know, because you know, guys, there's a reason why many foreigners prefer to come to Kenya and other countries that predominantly speak English, because they speak it well. And you know, right now, when you go to a household in Kenya, especially middle income families.
Yeah.
These people should be thunder go fire them. So when you go to these middle income households, literally these women, they force their kids to speak English 24/7 just so they could be like the cool kids and stuff like that. And when you go into these houses,
it's a flex for them when their children don't know Kiswahili
and you're like,
mother tongues.
This is stupid, to be quite honest, because like you'll go there, you
What's
try to greet this kid, and the mama is like, no, my kid doesn't know
English.
Kiswahili. It's terrible.
Anyway, guys, let us know what you think about this video in the comment section. We'd really appreciate hearing from you. We love that you had time or made time to join us on this episode. We really appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. Let's catch you on the next episode. Can you remember to subscribe before you leave for those who have not? Let's
get to 50k subscribers.
Ooh.
Guys, we are at 44. I'm
44.
jumping the gun.
Yeah, let's get to 50k subscribers, guys.
Yeah, and we'll have our first live when we hit 50,000 subscribers. So let's build up to the 50. And guys, when we get to 100k, guys, we are very chill people and whatnot, but this we promise to have a party.
Or maybe even a surprise.
Something will happen. So let's go. Tell your mama to share this link, tell your babies to share this link, tell your husbands and wives to share this link, so that we can get to 50 and eventually 100k subs.
And also turn on notification bell so that you know when we are posting our next episodes, right? Thank you guys so much for watching and always supporting us. We really don't take it for granted. We appreciate it.